New word from the nation's top scientists on the zombie virus that appeared just 2 weeks ago. They released information saying that the symptoms to watch for are aggression, foaming from the mouth, deterioration of motor skills, and an unbelievable hunger. Be advised that if an infected becomes hostile, the only way to harm them is to shoot them in the head.
And now, on with the show.
Retrogasmic, retrogasmic. With Dreadlocks and Hettie the Bomb.
Welcome to the Retrogasmic Podcast. I'm DD Deluxe.
And I'm Hettie the Bomb.
Welcome back. Today's show, we've got some great stuff. We have got our great friends, the RECLINER ROCKERS, on.
Oh.
Now, if you ever wake up one evening and think, I want to go out and see a band that are going to entertain me, then top of your list are the RECLINER ROCKERS. They, apart from being great guys and great musicians, they play a mixture of really good covers and a lot of their own stuff, but they are up there with the best entertainers in New Zealand for sure. They really, really give it their all.
It's a real show.
It's fantastic. So we'll be talking to them. I'm sure that will be fascinating. We have a rare blues track, Mindreader Blues. Oh, Vintage Triv. You're going to do that today, aren't you?
Yes, I've got a question.
Go on, far away. Let's do it now.
Okay. What is an octobass?
An octobass.
O-C-T-O bass, B-A-S-S.
I reckon it's the octopus that plays the bass in SpongeBob's band, the Bikini Bottom Boogie Boys.
No.
Look, I mean, that makes sense, even if it's not true. If you were an octopus and you were playing double bass, you can do all sorts of stuff. You've got 8 hands, effectively. And that must be it, no?
It's not, I'm afraid.
Okay.
You'll
All right.
have to wait to hear the answer.
Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I think something is happening.
Ooh, I feel retrogasmic.
So today's rare blues song is by Bertha Lee and Charlie Patton. It's called Mindreader Blues, and it was recorded in 1934. Bertha Lee was Charlie Patton's last wife. He had quite a few, and she had a reputation as being a fine blues singer in her own right. By all accounts, she probably had plenty of reasons to sing the blues. She was only married to Patton for about 4 years, and by all accounts, he didn't treat her particularly well. Well-known Delta bluesman Honeyboy Edwards said that Charlie always had a lot of women and men didn't like him much because all the women were fools over him. And the great Howling Wolf once referred to Patton as a great, great drinker. Patton had his throat cut quite badly during a drunken knife fight in a bar, so some of the later sessions of his career, he doesn't have the same vocal power. The Pattons recorded about a dozen songs together, 9 of Charlie's and 3 of Bertha's. He died 2 or 3 months after the final recording session in New York. Apparently Patton did record a couple of dozen songs in New York previously, but for some reason most of them were destroyed somehow, so only about 10 were ever released. So have a listen to this. This is fantastic. This is Mindreader Blues from 1934.
Baby, I can see just what's on your mind. Baby, I can see just what's on your mind. You got a long black woman with a gold teeth in her face. I take a long look right smack down in your mouth. trouble, no matter up and down the line. Don't kid your mama, you ain't fooling nobody but yourself. I don't kid your mama, you ain't fooling nobody but yourself. And what I see on your mind, you would not have no friend. I remember a day when I was living at Lula Town. I remember a day when I was living at Lula Town. I made so many wrong things till I had to leave the town. I got the real side, my man got the transfer board. I got the real side, my man got the transfer board. And the last time I see them in a car with the road. Well, I'm worried now, and I won't be worried long. Well, I'm worried now, and I won't be worried long. Well, I'm worried now, and I won't be worried long.
So in the studio today, we've got Al Lavis and Steve Rooney from the Recliner Rockers. Hi, boys.
Hey, Dogger, how are you?
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for coming in. Oh, we'll start with the obvious question. How did the band first get together?
Jeff Fitzpatrick, who unfortunately couldn't make it in today, who's our bass player extraordinaire. He of the dreadlocked coiffure.
Yeah, and the climbing all over his...
Yeah, quite an acrobat. He and I were, well, strangely enough, I met him when I was playing in bands myself, and he would come and see my band play.
Oh, cool.
I had a band called the Sly Groovers, and he would turn up, and at that stage he had a very prominent mohawk.
Oh, really?
He's always been a little different.
So he's gone from a mohawk to the dreads.
Yeah, and at that stage he was playing in a covers band. Prior to that he was playing in a punk band, and I think called the Sonic Twisters. But we had some mutual friends, and he'd drop into a shop that I worked at, and further down the line we got into a band backing a female vocalist friend of ours. It was a glam rock band.
Oh, fantastic.
So it was a lot of fun, but the sight of me in lycra tights wasn't very...
I've got a vision now of you playing Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah, though we did Ballroom
Of
Blitz.
course.
Yeah, we did Sweet and T-Rex and things like that. It was a bit of fun. I enjoyed that music.
Fantastic.
So that's where we started, and then after playing gigs and things, we'd start talking about what we really liked, and it came up that we both had a mutual sort of love for rockabilly.
Mm-hmm.
And roots music generally, you know, but that's what got us together. So we sort of formed the Recliner Rockers, and went from there. I started doing originals from the start, and the first sort of biggish gig would have been the Beach Shop, and it all sprang from that.
So you guys have been playing the Beach Shop for what, 12, 13 years?
Probably 13 now, sort of on the trot. Probably the second longest serving band, I think.
For sure.
I think there's someone else that's been playing a little longer, but
so there's something I want to kind of bring to the fore, because I think a lot of people are aware of you guys. I mean, you've done so many shows in the last decade or so that most Kiwis that go to live gigs will have seen you at some point. But I think something that a lot of people don't realise is that your music that you play, most of it, or let's say 50% of it in your set, is original music. It's your songs.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to phrase this. How do you
get away with it?
No. I mean, I think people don't realise that they're not just old school covers. So, which is a testament to our songwriting and you guys, your performance. But does that also have a downside in it? You kind of think, do you want to kind of scream out, "These are our songs. These are ours"?
Well, it's gratifying. The most gratifying part is that people, strange enough, we'll be doing a cover song and people are apathetic. We'll do one of ours and they get up and dance.
For sure.
And that's extremely rewarding, because the last thing we wanted to do was play songs just for the sake of them. You see bands doing covers, and they're there just to make up the numbers and they're not working. So we decided from the start, we'll play songs. If people are responding to them, we'll keep doing them. If they don't, they're out, and we've just been fortunate in that people respond to our songs. And we still, you're right, we still get people come up and say, who did that song and where's that from? Well, it's ours,
Yeah.
So, people are still ignorant of the fact that a lot of the stuff we do is original.
So I think what we'll do is we'll play something off your last record, which came out 3 or 4 years ago.
That's right.
Let's play a song called "Heard It on the Radio." Now, is there a bit of a backstory to this?
Like most of my songs, it probably comes originally from a riff or a melody that might occur to me, sitting there sort of thinking about something else, or just sitting playing guitar and something will go past. I think that's interesting. Let's flesh that out.
Noodling, yeah.
Yeah. But, so the riff was there. It's a fairly sort of prominent riff. And from that I developed the idea that going back to when I was a kid listening to the radio and some of the songs that struck me, there were things like Blue Suede Shoes and some of the early Elvis stuff. When I was a kid, just lying on the floor playing, and these things came on the radio and got my attention. So
it definitely got that late
feel.
50s, kind of early 60s kind of feel to it, for sure. This is "Heard It on the Radio."
Suede shoes and go, cat, go. It squeezed my heart and rattled my brain. It hit me hard, but I felt no pain. Hold on tight and don't let go, not until the dreams come true. I heard it on the radio. I saw them on the movie screen, looking tough and acting mean. Wild-eyed boys and the teenage queens, with their cool hot rods and street machines. Hold on tight and don't let go, not until your dreams come true. I heard it on the radio. true. I heard it on the radio.
So, Steve, how long you been with Recliners?
I think it's getting on for about 4 years. Yeah, I think I've been in New Zealand about 5 years, and I started to do like the odd dep after I'd been here about a year. So yeah, something like 4 years.
Because you're originally from the north of England.
Yeah, I'm from the north, but lived in London a long time as well. So from everywhere and nowhere these days, really.
All right. Now, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to quiz you a bit about your murky past, because you've played some pretty good gigs and you've played with some interesting people.
Yeah, I was back in England. I was in bands as a teenager, and then bands that started to tour and travel, you know, internationally and supporting other bands and doing international sort of festivals and stuff.
So you've played Glastonbury, haven't you?
I've played Glastonbury and some of those like big folk festivals like Trafalgar Square Folk Festival and things like Latitude and some of those big get-togethers and Jools Holland and I played with a few quite well-known people back there.
Tell us the story about going to the States and ending up working on a project produced by Nile Rodgers. That sounds surreal.
That was a strange thing. I used to know this guy, this drummer, and his name was Andy. He was in a band called Rockabilly, who were, they did quite well in the 90s.
Yep.
And Andy had been asked by this girl that he knew, Anushka, to play drums, and Andy had just become a dad, and he was like... And at the time, I thought, why would you pass this up? And now that I'm a dad, I totally get why he passed it up. It's just really tough gig. Toughest gig of your life. So Andy couldn't do the gig, and he said, do you want to, see if you go along, see if you like her and like the music? So I went along, and it was great. It was like really good pop rock and great tunes, and she was really feisty and dynamic and stuff. And then so I started to play with Anushka, and we did a few gigs, and she was in with that whole Don Letts sort of West London crowd.
Yep.
And then we got the chance to go on a Channel 4 TV show where they took a bunch of young hopefuls to Hollywood. So we were playing all these little backstreet dives in West London. Next thing we know, we're living in a mansion in the hills with a pool, overlooking the sign and everything, the Hollywood sign. So we were out there for a week. We did that thing for Channel 4. It was called California Dreaming. And then we came back, and meanwhile, Anushka had been chatting up Nile Rodgers at a Duran Duran gig.
Like you do.
Yeah, just walk up to Nile Rodgers and say, hey, Nile, can you do our album? So she actually got the opportunity to go out there and start to work on the songs. So we went out there. I think we lived on Doheny. I lived behind the Osbournes for about 6 weeks.
That must have been interesting.
Drive. Yeah. I was waiting for that Frisbee coming over the back fence. It never did come over. So we lived out there sort of on assignment kind of thing. And we did probably 6 months of rehearsals, started to track the album and everything. And she then started to move into TV work. So that album actually never saw the light of day. It was it was a strange gig, really.
What a shame.
We just had so much fun doing it, and then the album actually never came out. So... But it was fun hanging out in LA and doing the whole sessioning thing out there. It was
I
good.
bet. So we're going to play another song off the last album now. Just mention you guys are currently working on a new record. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've got songs written. We did make a tentative start and recorded 5 songs, but weren't happy with the results. So we shelved those, so we're going to start again, and we've sort of got 14 tracks, which we'll probably whittle down a little, but they're ready to go. We're just waiting for some benevolent sponsor to come along and wave money at us and say,
for sure,
go ahead, boys, and do it.
We're looking forward to hearing that. Okay, so this next song is called Cry Baby. This one's got a real kind of 50s retro-y ballad vibe to it.
It's a simple song. It's just acoustic guitar, bass and drums, one harmony vocal, and there's a sort of an electric solo in the middle, sort of played on a Gretsch to give it the requisite twang.
Yeah. Authentic.
But, yeah, it's a fairly simple song. Strangely enough, there's a band around town that is playing it.
Put it in their set.
They've got it in their set.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Jeff saw them once. He was out with his family at a field day or something, and there was a band playing it.
Oh,
He
wonderful.
Heard them playing it.
Oh, well,
And the guy came in and asked. He asked me if he could play.
Oh, it's a real compliment. Okay, well, let's hear it. This is Crybaby.
Please don't treat me like a fool. I said, please don't treat me like a fool. I wonder how you learn to be so cruel. Last night, I cried myself to sleep. I said last night, cried myself to sleep. Little angel said, oh boy, don't you weep. One day you find yourself standing all alone, looking around and wondering where everybody's gone. Please don't treat me like a fool. I said, please don't treat me like a fool. I wonder where you learned to be so cruel. So long, I just can't stay with you. I said so long, I just can't stay with you. Now you'll find you're a crybaby too. Now you'll find you're a crybaby too. Now you'll find you're a crybaby too.
We were booked to play a Swiss National Day
Okay.
gig, and we were at that stage of a bluesy sort of band.
Was this in Auckland?
This is in Auckland. This is in Ponsonby,
Yep.
in a hall. They'd hired a hall in Ponsonby, and we were setting up and doing a sound check. And this gentleman in shorts and lederhosen came racing from the back of the hall. Said, "Down by half! It's too loud. Down by half!"
Right.
So before we'd even started, we had to turn down. And in the course of the evening, everyone would be up dancing, and him and his cohorts would come racing from down by half. It's too loud. We must not play so loud. And then we'd turn it down, and everyone would sit down.
Yeah.
So most people would be sensitive to that situation, but they weren't. But the upshot of it was, after being told to turn down all night, at midnight they got out their Alpine horns. And they played, and it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. It must have terrified the whole neighbourhood.
So you were blown off.
Yeah.
By
So I was tempted to run up to them as they were playing, and go, "Down by half, down by half." It's probably the worst gig we've done.
fantastic. Come on, Steve. You must have
The worst gig I've ever done.
or you know.
Wow, that's tough. It depends on the reasons for it being the worst gig you've ever done. Like 0 attendance, they're always fun. Oh yeah, I know. The worst gig I've ever done, the most grinding gig I've ever done in my life. When I was a kid, 18, sort of 19, yeah, maybe even younger, 17, 18.
Wow.
I used to regularly do these American air bases, and you know the ones in England?
The GI bases.
Yeah,
I've played
you
a few of those.
drive on the other side.
Very
and
well,
everyone's eating
very well
Taco
paid,
Bell.
but sometimes,
Yeah.
I feel your
Well,
pain.
we used to play this one. It was RAF or USAAF Lakenheath, I think it is, or Mildenhall or somewhere like that. Might be Mildenhall. And this was the biggest room on any of those bases. It was massive. It was like literally like an aircraft hangar. And we were under contract, and we had to play for 4 hours, like over the course of the night, 4 hours. Well, when we went on, there was nobody in the building at all, literally nobody. And then we played to one man, and literally the cliche dog. He had his dog in there.
No.
As well. And then we had to, I think we've been on for by about 2 hours. We've been on for 2 hours.
Yep.
And he was still the only guy in there. And then the dog left, so then that was just him. And we had to grind on for another 2 hours to an empty aircraft, because he left as well. 2 hours in an empty aircraft hangar. That's probably the least attended gig I've ever done in my whole life.
Wow.
But actually really well paid as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so why wouldn't you keep going,
Yeah.
I guess, at the end of the day?
No, and I can remember bands in the UK that specialised in doing those GI bases, and
They were lucrative.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
And if you wanted good, like, cheap American junk food, that was the place
do you
to get it.
Do you remember the husband and wife kind of comedy team, the Crankies?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeanette and Ian.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, it's really embarrassing that I know their first name.
Yeah, well done. That's
I always thought it was weird that she sat on his knee.
Yeah,
You know,
well, they were
like,
married, weren't
that.
they?
That's what's weird.
Yeah.
He dressed her as a schoolboy and sat her on his knee.
Yeah, well, they used to do a show which we'd had a band with them, and they would sing some kind of like popular classics and stuff like that. And my mate was in the band and toured them, and sometimes they would literally end up doing, as you said, a show to an empty room.
Absolutely empty.
So they would do all the material they would do for the adult clubs, because there was no one there to hear it.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the Crankies doing a...
I don't really want to imagine the Crankies.
Unfortunately, this is mainly going out to a New Zealand audience, and they're going, who are the Crankies? People, Google the Crankies.
Yeah, you got to do it. You owe that to yourself to figure out who they are.
You need enlightenment.
Terrifying.
Well, look, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the new album, and we'll definitely get you back when you've got get that ready to drop.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
When the moon is full, dogs are gonna howl. When the moon is full, the dogs are gonna howl. Watch out, girl, this cat is on the prowl. I caught you, girl, that just can't get away. I caught you, girl, that just can't get away. Pretty little mouse's cat is gonna play. When we touch, the sparks are gonna fly. When we touch, the sparks are gonna fly. When we kiss, there'll be rockets in the sky. Late at night I hear you call my name. Late at night I hear you call my name. Since I met you, girl, you'll never be the same. When the moon is full, the dogs are gonna howl. When the moon is full, the dogs are gonna howl. Watch out, girl, his cat is on the prowl. When we touch, the sparks are gonna fly. When we touch, the sparks are gonna fly. When we kiss, there'll be rockets in the sky.
Okay, time for the vintage trivia answer. What is an octobass? The octobass is one of the largest string instruments ever produced. It's basically a giant double bass. It has the same proportions as the violin, but it's 3.5 meters or 12 feet tall.
12 feet?
Yes, it's very large. The reason for this is because the violin and the cello are basically both perfectly proportioned for the sound they produce to resonate as well as they can. And but unfortunately, the viola and the double bass it had to be designed differently for playability, so it's not as optimal in terms of sound.
So to scale
production.
it up so it
Yes.
resonated
So
the
that
same.
was the idea behind the octobass. It wasn't just a mad idea. There was actually a reason for it. Yes, so it needs two musicians to play it because it's so big.
Two?
Yeah. Yes, one to bow it at the bottom and another one operating a series of levers to actually change the pitch, because you couldn't actually physically.
That was going to be my next
play
question,
it.
because the strings would be so heavy you wouldn't be able to press down on them, would you?
Yes. So it's really only designed for the low sustained notes. You couldn't really play anything.
Like a solo or anything.
No, it would be very hard.
So the guy at the top that's doing the note changing, as it were, would he be on the ladder? He'd have to be.
Yes. The whole thing is kind of in a scaffold, because you couldn't really hold it up. It's very big.
It must be really loud as well. It must really, really resonate. It must be.
Yes, well, that's the idea. It can, in fact, produce notes that are below the normal human range of hearing, but you can still feel them and hear some of the overtones. So it would be a very interesting experience. I've never heard it myself.
Like a sub-bass kind of thing. Wow.
But yes. So, yes. There are only 7 produced in the world, and the Montreal Symphony Orchestra has one, apparently.
I'd just love to see that being played.
Look it up on YouTube. There's videos.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm going to be doing that this afternoon.
Retrogasmic.
So sadly, we come to the end of another show. Thank you for listening. We do appreciate it. We just hit a big 500 on Facebook. That was great. We really appreciate you following. The podcast is still free. Lots of podcasts charge. We do not charge. Please, if you have a listen, share it. Give us a review. Anything like that. It all helps us. We really, really appreciate it. We will see you on the next show.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Retrogasmic.